Once the entity type has been selected, the next question is which jurisdiction should you form the entity in? Every state in the United States allows for the formation of an entity. However, what I would say is that the vast majority of the companies that we're incorporating are incorporated in Delaware. And Delaware, the historic reason for this is also twofold. First, Delaware has established a very favorable body of law around the rights and obligations and liabilities that officers and directors incur when presiding over a Delaware corporation. And because of the volume of companies that have formed as Delaware corporations over the years, a vast amount of case law has been established to help further refine and define those rules. So Delaware tends to have a very well understood and somewhat favorable body of law around the rights, preferences, privileges, and obligations of officers and directors. It also happens to be a jurisdiction in which the institutional investor community is most familiar. And accordingly, if you are seeking to raise outside capital, there may be an expectation that you be a Delaware corporation. Finally, Delaware has a benefit over some other state jurisdictions in the sense that they're very streamlined to work with. Filing a charter amendment is as easy as sending something over the transom and having it filed, as opposed to in other states such as California, in which there's a review process by the Secretary of State whenever a charter amendment is filed. So the vast majority of the companies that we form are formed in Delaware. However, there is a small percentage that decide to form in the jurisdiction in which they're initially doing business. We're based in California, and so a few of our companies prefer to just be formed in California, thinking that they might get some implicit value. And again, this is a topic that is worthy of of discussing with your counsel when you get your company going. Once you've decided the entity type and the state in which you're incorporating, things that need to be thought through are the initial board of director composition, the initial officer slate. In Delaware, you need, by law, to have a president/CEO. You need to have a treasurer/CFO, and you need to have a secretary. One individual can serve in each of those functions. However, best practice is, if there is more than one individual working on behalf of the emerging growth company, is to have different individuals serve in each of those capacities. And oftentimes, somebody like your outside counsel will serve as the secretary. In terms of board composition, it depends on how many people are involved in the early days of the emerging company, but we strongly encourage our clients to establish formal boards of directors and appoint more than one individual initially, so that there really is a governing body overseeing in the appropriate way the activities of the business. To be a member of the board of directors of an emerging company, however, is not without its responsibilities. As a board member, you are required by law to exercise a fiduciary duty to look out for the best interests of all stockholders. And that's a responsibility that needs to be taken very seriously. And to the extent your prospective board members have questions about what that entails, again, I'd encourage you to talk to counsel about it. Other things that need to be fleshed out in connection with the formation of the business are the fiscal year. If you have a good sense of how you want to structure your fiscal year, it's good to put it in place from the day one. However, over time, you can also adjust that. Memorializing the initial contribution of capital from the founders and contribution of intellectual property from the founders, establishing a bank account, establishing an initial site at which the company's office is going to be located, establishing a federal employer ID number. All these things are required when getting a company formed. Anyway, there's a lot of other details, but hopefully this gave you an overview of the important issues to think about when forming a business. I look forward to talking with you in our subsequent videos, and thank you very much.